I was going to say, I mean, we're gentlemen here, but you're a lady, and in some sense, you're the target audience for this. So, like, how did it make you feel watching this show?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I I know a lot of it is kind of structured to be very pro women making their own choices, and oh, I shouldn't be called She-Hulk. You know, it's a derivative of a man. All these things that are just intended to empower women, and it feels very boring to watch. I don't feel inspired. I don't feel feminine watching it. I don't think that the idea of She-Hulk in these giant muscles and then in a sundress attending a wedding, then showing off her butt feels like a very feminine thing to me. I think it's like the new wave of feminism where to be female, you have to be male,
Hmm.
but constantly put men down while you do it.
It's a strange situation because when I think about the guys in this show, they are the biggest collection of morons and wimps, and just like the kind of people I've never met in my entire life. I've never met a man who remotely resembles any of the guys portrayed in this show, and it's weird that that's the writer's perception of what men are and how they
Yeah.
act because yeah, it just doesn't line up with reality. But what's weird is if you call that out and say, "Well, this seems a bit off," the response I think would be, "Well, if you're offended by it, then clearly you're it's hitting too close to home, and you're one of the people that's the problem."
I think
It's
they need to be really
Yes.
careful with that logic, considering what they get offended by and stuff. It's like I wouldn't run with that if I were you.
But they
And
will.
besides, half these insane characters of people are like they're unrecognizable as human, not as like oh dear, this looks like me and I can't handle it. Oh. It's like, the
yeah,
criticism.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think it was in the first episode where they talked about how I think when she finds out she has a superpower, Nikki says to her, "Oh, are you going to be an Avenger now?" And she says, "No, it's for narcissists." And then the rest of the themes of every single show have rotated around her dating life and her fine, her career, that's fine, and what clothes she wears, and it's such a self-obsessed viewpoint
yeah.
of a superhero. How is that not narcissistic? And it's how is it narcissistic to want to put on a suit and help other people with it? Why is it narcissistic to do that?
I think there's two strands to it, right? Because on the one hand, you can go down the road of saying that a superhero doesn't always have to be motivated immediately by altruistic
Yeah.
motives. Like Tony Stark is a great example.
Yeah.
He is a narcissist. He is arrogant, and he is. There's an element of him wanting the glory of being Iron
Yes.
Man. Like he wants people to know that he's Iron Man because of his own ego. But it's also tempered by a genuine desire to help people because he recognizes the damage that he's caused and he wants to try and find a way to undo it. Like he's a problem solver, and this is another problem that he wants to solve. So you can have flawed characters like that, but to call it out as being a shit motivation for a person to do something like this and then display it yourself, which is what this show tries to do. Yeah, it's like a classic, want to have your cake and eat it kind of situation. You can't call out the same thing that you're doing and expect people to sympathize with you.
Yeah. And to your point about the men being very strange, I think it's so creepy. The man that she sleeps with while she's also helping Wong out with those weird creatures, that she just carries him into her bedroom. Oh my God. That was just horrifying. Or even the way she jumps on top of him. I was completely blown away that how is that is this the kind of manhood that these women want? I mean, I guess the answer is yes, but I couldn't believe it.
It seems to be a little bit of like, we're going to turn the tables on men.
Mhm.
That seems to be some of their motivation here because you've got a scene like that, like you say, where she picks him up and carries him because she's so much bigger and stronger than him. She's very much the dominant
Yeah.
person, the dominant player in that sort of sexual encounter. But then you've got things like in the latest episode where she gets it on with Daredevil and he has to do the walk of shame going home, and they even straight up call it the walk of shame. That I'm sorry,
You missed
the
it.
walk of shame doesn't apply to men. Like there's no man.
Never. There's no
unless-
shame to our game ever. Okay.
Yeah.
No man would carry his shoes like that either. They're not high heels. They're freaking shoes. We'd put them on.
This is straight up like we're gonna
You'd
take
be walking out like this.
yeah,
Getting high-fived the whole time home.
did it, bro. Yeah.
No, I think the part of the problem, Drinker, is that, and you've mentioned it before, it's the writer's perspective. So these are men, these are Hollywood men specifically this is the world of Hollywood. It's the bubble of Hollywood. Their experience does not go outside of this bubble. Even if they're not from Hollywood, when you're there for about 10 years, 5 years, struggling, that's all you know. That's your entire life experience. It's drinking, texting, and gossiping. And that's all this show is. You know, I said it's a show, it's made for wine moms, but it's by like women who, I mean, like spinsters who will never have children. Not with this attitude towards men. Like, and I don't know, like men have been horrible in Hollywood. So have women. I mean, Olivia Wilde just proved that women can be just as horrible as men as a director of a movie with all the drama there. So that's what we're dealing with. No life experience. And more importantly, what everybody's missing on Twitter right now. Well, I'm sorry, all the bops. So beep, boop, bop, or I'll say it in freaking code. And then all the, well, quite frankly, autism that's there, that's missing the point of why we're upset at this show. It's, you can do stuff tongue in cheek once in a while, but if you go back and read the She-Hulk comic, if you actually read the She-Hulk comic, there's still a seriousness to it. Even though it's breaking the fourth wall, it's not jokey all the time. That was part of the problem Byrne had with it in the beginning. And he had fights. He always had fights with his editors. But it was taken, like even Slott, who's a moron as a sloth as a person, like he got it right in his comic run for a little while. So there's a seriousness to it. Like we take this serious, and I have it in my video, and I'm sure you guys have run with it too. The creator of this show came out and said, I didn't like superhero comics. They were just too serious. The drama was just too much for me. So she read indie books, which could have been Love and Rockets or nothing. I mean, she could have been just lying. I'm not really sure. But they automatically didn't respect the source material. And so they took a really popular character amongst comic fans, real comic fans, and turned her into a Disney Marvel character, unfortunately.
I think I could almost live with all of this, right? If the humor really landed. Like you could almost just go down the airplane road or the hot shots road where it's just absolute nonsense, like complete satire, and it like there's almost like no continuity with previous series or whatever. It's just there to have fun. If the jokes are absolute bangers that really get you laughing, but none of that happens. Like that's the fundamental problem. It's a comedy that's not funny. Like that's because this is like the rebuttal that you get from a lot of the people who support it. It's like, well, it doesn't have to make sense and it doesn't have to line up with other Marvel shows. It's a comedy. Just have fun with it. And I say, okay, fine. But if it makes me laugh, great. But it never ever has. Like, and I don't think it does with anyone. I don't know who would find this funny. Like the jokes don't land. There are no workable jokes in this. It's just really bland. Really like it comes across almost as bitter a lot of the time, like observational humor. It's
it seesaws
like,
between being very bitter to being toxically positive, where the way that they try to build each other up, the female characters are constantly calling each other, you're so fabulous and you're so amazing, and it just feels very fake.
And that's how a lot of creatives talk to each other in Hollywood. That is very normal vernacular there.
Yeah,
you're always like right when they're in front of you, you're just the most amazing person, and then they completely forget about you as soon as you're out of line of sight.
When I was writing that why Phase 4 for Marvel's really sucked, I watched the entire red carpet for the Eternals just because I think that was the most political.
It's saving lives. It's literally saving lives.
But it was I felt sick at how much people were just overly complimenting each other. But that's the Hollywood life, that you're constantly sucking up to each other because that's the bubble you live in.
Yeah. And
But that was gold, by the way. That red carpet.
Yeah.
Watch it sometime if you need clips.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah.
You just
They
think,
all
like,
think that they all think that they are saving the world. It's
They do.
insane.
I
Yeah.
know, it's like the narcissism on display is both like humorous and terrifying at the same time. Like that these people would have such a high opinion of themselves. You know, it's like you're making corporatized trash. Like you ain't saving anything, my friend.
Just your own egos. That's all.
Yeah, and you know, with this, it's well, I mean, I guess I should talk a little bit about the latest episode because it's the one that finally brings in Daredevil. Because it's so funny because like the show has been teasing this, and it's almost like the people who defend it are like, "Oh, you're mad that Daredevil hasn't been brought in," and I'm the opposite. I'm like, I've been happy up until now that he's not been here because the fewer characters from Marvel that you bring in that are actually likable, the fewer you can ruin. And so I guess I knew it was going to happen sooner or later, and here he came. And I'll give the show the tiniest little bit of credit, right? This episode was the least terrible out of the lot. It's the only one that had a male character in it that was somewhat likable. And I think a lot of it's down to Charlie Cox and his great performance. If there's some kind of award that you can give for being a good sport, then this guy deserves it instead of Female Lawyer of the Year. And I think maybe there was, in this one episode, there was a little bit of oversight from Marvel. I don't know if they were like, look, this character actually matters, and so we're not going to let you fuck him up with your amateur hour writing. We're going to put a little bit of effort in to make sure he's not ruined. So I will give them a little bit of credit for that. Like, he wasn't completely humiliated like I expected him to be.
I'll go as far as in, I'll give him a little bit of credit for the fact that the plot finally allowed her horrible actions to have consequences. Right at the end, I was like, "Oh my god, finally!"
Yeah. That was surprising. I wasn't sure that they were going to do that at all.
Because when she started tearing apart the TVs, I was like, "Okay, yeah, it sucks that like a sex tape is being released about you, but that shit's dangerous." And then she, oh yeah, see, I was mixing up the scenes in my head. I was about to say, didn't she like pick up a car and throw it to someone? I was like, "Oh no, that's when she was doing a superheroing."
And that was considered to be okay, I guess. That was just a little joke.
Even Daredevil makes a joke about how like property damage, and it's like, dude.
My favorite line was in the bar when Matt Murdock said, "Well, the way I see it."
That one totally went over my head at the time. It was, you know, it was funny though, right? Because the scene in the bar when they're doing a bit of flirting, and you can tell the actors are both quite good at what they're doing, and like there's actually an okay bit of chemistry between them. You know what I mean? Like I don't think Tatiana Maslany is a terrible actress. She's been lumbered with awful material, but like when she's given a guy like him to play off of two good actors, it felt okay. It felt like kind of natural. It's almost like the first time in the whole series that the show has actually found its groove just for a couple of minutes, you know? But, you know, they still had to have... They go home and he has to do the walk of shame and all that stuff, like, later on. But, yeah. Little bits like that just show that, like, it could have been something okay in the hands of better writers.
Yeah. God, I hate it.
It's like
I hate it now. It's like it's somebody responded to me on Twitter. I don't know if they were. It doesn't matter really. They quote tweeted my how it started, how it ended, and they just put sad. You could say they're saying I'm sad or that's sad. I don't know, but I just went, yeah, it's sad. It's sad that Daredevil was in the best thing Marvel has ever done, and now he's in the worst thing Marvel has ever done.
Yeah.
Way to go. Nice to tie that little knot there and ruin him.
Yeah.
I think his, like, it was never going to work trying to bring him into a lighthearted comedy show like this. Like, it's the exact polar opposite of his series. You know, he is a dark, brooding hero, and that's the kind of setting he needs to be in. Like I say, it didn't humiliate him, but at the same time, he was just a weird fit for a show like this. And I don't know if the thinking basically went as far as, well, he's a lawyer, so she's a lawyer, so he should be in the show,
and they should hook up.
Yeah, exactly. But it really shows, and I don't know if this was intentional, just how absolutely shit of a lawyer she is. Like, she doesn't do any prep work for her trial. He confounds her with like really basic facts that she should absolutely have known from her client. And it just made me think, wow, like, you're female lawyer of the year in this universe. Like, it seems like that must be a really low benchmark because
It is, Drinker. All the
you're-
women got it.
yeah. But it's like you're terrible at your job. Like, he absolutely wiped the floor with you with very little effort.
And she
and
won
again-
Lawyer of the Year. She got an award for Lawyer of the Year
But
for not doing any lawyering.
Client
Yeah.
tampered with the technology before using it and tried to blame the manufacturer. It's just like, this is just basic. You have to get that sorted ahead of time. But he smells it in the court case, and then they're like, "Oh shit!" And then the judge is just like, "There you go, done." And it's like, that's not how cases work, man.
No.
It's not
Yeah,
even
she
close.
would-
Lawyer might be
if-
thorough. You know,
Yeah,
might
she
ask a
would
lot
have
of
gone.
questions. Yeah,
She would have gone to the manufacturer and said, okay, like, tell me about this, and is there a way that this could have gone wrong? Can you explain how this could have malfunctioned? She would have gone to the guy who used it and said, what did you do with it? Explain exactly how you used it. And it would have taken her about 5 minutes to put together the fact that he fucked up and he put the wrong fuel in it and it didn't work, and that's why he got injured. But it's
Exactly,
like, no, didn't think to
exactly.
do that because the writers don't understand courtroom stuff and they don't
Drinker,
care.
when I went to my defense attorney, I said, I'm not guilty. And he just said, okay. And that's how he went to court. He didn't check me out or anything. He didn't vet anything. He just believed me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy
believe
how,
all men.
The case that he presented was like, well, he seems nice, you know. I don't think he's
Yeah,
guilty. So just let him off with it.
On his face today. So
Yeah. Yeah,
God.
this is, oh man.
Yeah, they really don't do a good job. I mean, they portray her as her career being so important, right? Important enough that she shouldn't be a superhero. She shouldn't be an Avenger or anything. Her career is so important, but they're not actually building her up as very competent.
That's it. I could get if like almost she was a shitty person, but an amazing lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because I guess that's the price people pay sometimes, you know, to be amazing at something in their field. They have to sacrifice their personal lives. So, okay, cool. But
Yeah.
you're demonstrating the exact opposite with this character. She's really comically shit at her job, and yet she keeps getting accolades and opportunities like heaped on her. It doesn't make a lick of sense. And I don't know if it's just
And-
wish fulfillment on the part of the writers or what.
Because of the nature of the show too, I'm expecting that the big old thing that happens at the end of this episode is going to be washed away in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of
You're
course.
probably
There's
right.
no consequences to anything.
It's going to go back to everything being normal straight away. Because yeah, a lot of people will say that this is a sitcom to defend it. It's interesting, as if sitcoms are always shit.
we got a Mephisto thing too, Mahler. Because
Oh, no.
remember the Red Hulk? Everybody's like, it's gonna be the Red Hulk at the end. Well, she jokes about it in this episode. She's like,
Yeah.
oh, is this the penultimate episode that's going to lead up to a Red Hulk, showing that it's not going to be a Red Hulk and it's just going to be a big nothing?